The National Desk, America's News, now.
The news, both from a few years ago and just from a couple of weeks ago, is a little disturbing.
But I don't feel like we hear about this happening every week or every month or even once a year. I don't remember the last time I heard a door fly off.
Now on the National Desk, America's News Now. Flight fears. The airplanes were grounded because of a door plug disaster are back in air, and Boeing CEO answering tough questions about safety on Capitol Hill. Plus, DA allegations taxpayer money used for prosecuting Donald Trump was allegedly used for pleasure trips, how the former president could benefit. And history restored. A school in Pennsylvania votes to reinstate their school mascot and logo. Find out what brought on the change. From the nation's capital, this is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Dee Dee Gatton, and on this weekend edition, we start with continuing coverage of Boeing's investigation. Some of Boeing's 737 MAX 9 planes that were grounded after a door panel blowout during a flight are back in service. The FAA has confirmed those planes have been checked and will continue their inspection process on the remaining grounded planes. Their CEO now facing tough questions on Capitol Hill. The National Desk, Jeremy Harris reports.
The 737 plant in Renton at the center of an investigation about how a door plug flew off this Alaska Airlines flight earlier this month.
Go ahead.
Any comment on the meeting?
Constructive, shared everything I could, understands the gravity of the situation.
Boeing CEO Dave Calhoun had closed-door meetings on Capitol Hill with senators, including Washington's Maria Cantwell.
We fly safe planes. We don't put airplanes in the air that we don't have 100% confidence in. I'm here today in the spirit of transparency to, number one, recognize the seriousness of what you just asked. Number two, to share everything I can with our Capitol Hill interests. And answer all their questions, because they have a lot of them.
The Seattle Times reported industry sources who say the door plug that flew off an Alaska flight was improperly installed here at the Renton facility.
The news, both from a few years ago and just from a couple of weeks ago, is a little disturbing.
Flyers have raised concerns about the MAX at a time when the company is trying to fulfill thousands of orders from airlines and seeking certification for the new MAX 10 series.
It appears to be that in this effort for cost cutting, you had lesser quality controls.
The FAA has now approved the inspection and repair process for the MAX 9 door plugs.
Thanks so much.
NTSB.
But Boeing will now have to answer for how and why this happened.
And I do see a new level of transparency from Boeing.
The man wanted for shooting 8 people, killing 7 across several locations in a Chicago suburb was found dead. The suspect was Romeo Nance. Police say the shootings happened in 2 separate houses. Police say both appear to be random and the victims were not connected to each other. Police saying Nance took his own life with a handgun Monday night at a gas station after an altercation with police near Natalia, Texas. Residents are fed up with soft on crime policies in California. Now one prosecutor is pushing to get a proposition on the ballot for harsher penalties for repeat offenders. The National Desk, Myra Franco reports from Fresno.
California is ready for a change. They are ready to say enough is enough to this madness of no accountability and no responsibility for people who are, repetitive drug users and repetitive thieves.
District Attorney Lisa Smith-Camp, alongside local and state elected officials and law enforcement, have been pushing to hold repetitive criminals accountable for years. She says they are one step closer to making that happen with a new ballot initiative called the Homelessness, Drug Addiction, and Theft Reduction Act.
This has been an effort that's a long time coming.
The new initiative would reverse parts of Proposition 47 that was approved by voters back in 2014. That referendum had reclassified criminal offenses to misdemeanors instead of felonies when it came to retail theft under $950. It also reduced penalties for drug offenses. The new initiative will allow prosecutors to charge a third criminal offense as a felony instead of a misdemeanor. misdemeanor.
And that's the most important part of this is not for the first-time criminal. It's not for the second-time criminal. It's the person who commits the theft or drug crime for the third time.
She says many of the crime victims are fed up all across the state and want to see criminals being held accountable. We've reported on it time and time again. SMCAP says they just need voters to help them get the Homelessness, Drug Addiction, and Theft Reduction Act on the November ballot to allow prosecutors to be one step closer to being able to do just that.
We have to have that by mid-April. So it's really a mad dash. It's a very intensive endeavor.
While the Supreme Court ruled the federal government could remove razor wire at the southern border, nothing is stopping Texas from putting more up. The National Desk, Christine Frizzell, breaks down the debate.
The standoff at the southern border not letting up. Instead of allowing the federal government to cut through the razor wire in Eagle Pass, the state of Texas is installing more. In a statement, Governor Greg Abbott declaring the federal government has broken the compact between the United States and the states.
The authors of the Constitution knew there would be times when the federal government would not live up to its duty. And so they empowered states in Article 1, Section 10, the right of self-defense.
This despite the U.S. Supreme Court siding with the Biden administration, which argued it alone has the federal authority to secure the border and to remove the razor wire as it sees fit, which the White House says is necessary.
It's unfortunate that there is a governor in Texas, Governor Abbott, who has politicized this issue of what's happening on the border. And it's not making people's lives safer. It's actually making it harder for law enforcement at the border to do their job.
This battle between the state and federal government has been unfolding as the federal government has been trying to take action, with bipartisan legislation in the Senate nearing completion, but now facing a new hurdle, with more and more Republicans publicly opposing it.
This supplemental bill is a kamikaze plane in a box canyon with no exit, headed for a train wreck.
Others blame an empowered Donald Trump for trying to tank the deal.
The border is a very important issue for Donald Trump, and the fact that he would communicate to Republican senators and congresspeople that he doesn't want us to solve the border problem because he wants to blame Biden for it is really appalling.
As the drama deepens in Texas, more and more evidence of the impact nationwide, including more than 2,000 miles away at Boston's Logan Airport, where more than 100 migrants are said to be taking shelter. Other options and resources running out. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
Growing fallout for the Fulton County District Attorney trying to prosecute Donald Trump. Bonnie Willis will likely have to testify in the divorce case of her special prosecutor, who she's accused of having an affair with. And the judge in that case ruled that case should be made public. The National Desk, Kayla Gaskins reports.
Concerns trickle down to the use of taxpayer dollars. Bonnie Willis's office has reportedly paid Nathan Wade's law firm $653,000 in taxpayer money thus far to prosecute Trump. Critics say Willis benefited from this when Wade took her on lavish trips. Bank statements provided by Wade's wife's lawyer show he bought plane tickets for the pair to go to Miami and San Francisco.
Because of the amount of money and the serious nature of the allegations, at a minimum, the case is going to be put on hold so that there can be full transparency about what happened here.
Neither Willis nor Wade have denied the affair accusations. Video resurfacing of these remarks Willis made during her 2020 campaign.
I certainly will not be choosing people to date that work under me. Let me just say that.
Willis arguing the attacks are racist because the two white special prosecutors on the case have escaped such harsh criticism.
First thing they say, oh, she gonna play the race card now. But no, God, isn't it them who's playing the race card when they only question one?
True or not, the scandal impacting Willis's goal to wrap up the case before the 2024 presidential election.
And now I think the train has stopped dead in its tracks until this is resolved.
The delay providing a window of opportunity for Donald Trump, allowing him to possibly avoid some of the political consequences of a conviction. And should he win re-election, Fishwick points out the case would likely be paused while he holds office. Supporters of Wade and Willis say they didn't break any Georgia laws and shouldn't be disqualified from prosecuting the case.
The Georgia judge overseeing Trump's case scheduled a hearing to explore these accusations into Fani Willis. That hearing is set to take place February 15th. The judge also ordered Willis to submit a written response to these allegations by February 2nd. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis is facing allegations of misconduct amid her prosecution of former President Donald Trump. I'm with Courtney from the Fact Check team. Okay, Courtney, break down those allegations first.
Sure, Dee Dee. So a court motion filed earlier this month alleges that Willis had a, quote, improper romantic relationship with Nathan Wade, who she hired in 2021 as a special prosecutor in the election interference case against Trump, and that the two have been profiting off the prosecution at the expense of taxpayers because of trips they took together, which Wade paid for.
Let's look at the legal implications. Were any laws broken?
So it's a really complicated situation. Under Georgia law, there are only two valid reasons to disqualify a prosecuting attorney, one being a conflict of interest and the other is something called forensic misconduct. So even if the allegations are true, there would be no basis for disqualifying either of them for prosecuting the case, because conflict of interest only applies when the prosecutor's conflicting interests could lead to them seeking an unfair conviction.
Is this situation an ethics violation? That's come up a lot.
Some legal experts think so. If the allegations are true, it could be considered an ethical conflict of interest, which violates the State Bar of Georgia's Code of Ethics for Lawyers. I also looked at the Fulton County Code of Ethics, and it says officers and employees should aspire to avoid even the appearance of a conflict of interest or impropriety, which does include gifts or favors.
Good breakdown. Courtney, thank you. And for more on this Fact Check Team topic, including links to their sources, scan that QR code on your screen or visit thenationaldesk.com.
Turning our attention to our nation's schools, with one restoring its region's historic heritage by bringing back its Native American mascot. In Pennsylvania, the Southern York County School Board voted 7-2 to bring back their traditional warrior head logo to Susquehannock High School. The vote comes 2 months after the district elected 5 new Republican school board members who ran on pro-American Indian platforms. In 2020, the school board removed the logo despite a petition supporting it. Mirrors are being removed from school bathrooms. A school district in North Carolina taking this step because too many students were using their phones to make TikTok videos during class time. The Southern Alamance Middle School said it decided to let students keep their phones for now.
We want students to be responsible with their devices, including appropriate use at school. I mean, we all have cell phones. We have to learn to use them in this society, and this is part of the education process, and it sort of starts in middle school, if you will.
The Alamance Burlington school system now has students use class laptops to check in and out during bathroom breaks. Still to come here on the National Desk, weight loss warning, new findings about popular diabetes drugs and how they could have negative effects down the road. The rise of weight loss drugs have given hope to millions of Americans and also created a buzz about safety and long-term use. Ozempic traditionally was for patients with type 2 diabetes, now also used off-label for weight control, along with Wegovy, which the FDA has approved for weight management. What are the benefits and risks? Joining Jan Jeffcoat to discuss is Senior Fellow at the Cato Institute, Dr. Jeffrey Singer.
What makes these drugs so effective in weight loss? Well, these drugs, as you said, were invented to treat diabetes. They're called semaglutides. They're kind of chemically similar to the hormone glucagon, and they make the pancreas increase the release of insulin, and they lower your blood sugar. But they also have been found to make your stomach kind of reduce the level of churning and emptying, so things just kind of sit there for a while, and they work on the brain directly to make you reduce your craving for food and make you feel satiated. So what we found is that people can lose up to 15% of their body weight over a period of about 68 months because they're taking in less food.
Yeah.
So that's an added bonus.
Right. It's been quite remarkable for so many people. But what are the long-term side effects of these drugs, and how long should people take them if they're doing it solely for weight loss?
Well, actually, they're pretty uncommon. Long-term side effects include you can get, for example, pancreatitis or gallbladder disease. You can get kidney problems if you don't take in enough fluids and get dehydrated. And there's a rare form of thyroid cancer. Of course, the drug hasn't been around for that many years, so we may over time find other long-term side effects. But the major downside is that most people gain most of their weight back when they stop taking it over a period of about a year. So you have to either adjust the way you eat and exercise if you want to not take it forever, or you got to keep taking it.
Well, and so the question then becomes, well, what if you do take it forever? Because if weight loss drugs like Wegovy help people lose weight, then do the benefits outweigh the risk? Because isn't obesity the worst health problem in America? After all, food is a drug too.
Yeah, but people have to make their own risk-benefit assessment. Everybody's different. Some people, keep in mind, you have to take it. It costs money. Some people may not want to inject themselves. You have to inject yourself weekly. Some people may be happy with their weight despite warnings from their doctor. Some people might not want to take that even small risk of long-term side effects. So everybody has to make their own risk-benefit assessment.
And you mentioned before, too, that for a lot of people, they stop taking it and they gain the weight back. I was reading a big problem for some people, too, is they plateau at a certain point after losing the weight and stay at a certain level. Why is that?
Well, that's actually what happens is as you're taking in less calories because of the, your brain, the effect of the drug on the brain and the stomach, your metabolism adjusts. That's a natural inbred survival mechanism that humans have, so that when for example, when you're starving, your metabolism slows down, so you have a lower caloric intake. So eventually, you kind of reach an equilibrium between your metabolic rate and your caloric intake, and things sort of level off. The way to change that is to increase your caloric requirements by, for example, increasing your physical activity or exercise.
And you can view the full interview with Dr. Jeffrey Singer, plus more top stories online all the time at thenationaldesk.com. Up next here on the National Desk, a school bus scare, parents outrage after students were told they could walk home alone in dangerous weather conditions after a bus crash. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. From a North Carolina community watching a historic building burn down to Oklahoma parents concerned about the safety of bus routes this winter. We're taking the pulse of America. But we start in California, where a man's motorcycle was stolen right from his work parking spot.
I was no more than 20 feet away from my bike, and I got taken right from under me.
Friday,
Two people driving a gray pickup truck pulled up at WRXL California Sales and started eyeballing Max Moreno's Honda CBR 600RR sports bike. Moreno says the truck drove by his work several times before a man jumped out and quickly stole his helmet with his keys in it. Moments later,
One of my coworkers tells me, "Hey, I think I hear your bike starting," and I thought he was joking with me.
Moreno says he only drives motorcycles and takes pride in his bikes. He bought his Honda CBR last June for $7,000 and his helmet for $1,000. Now he's out over $8,000.
Lock your bikes up, make sure your handlebar locks are on, take your helmets inside with you, because you never know.
I mean, it was crazy. I actually, like I said, I drove all the way down from High Point just to see it.
I mean, it's sad because we love our little town. Yeah. This is like, Norman Rockwell type of place, and it's sad to see that happening in our town.
Lexington Fire Chief Paul Jarrett says crews started by attacking the main body of fire.
The building's been in a state of disrepair for some time. It's too unsafe to send firefighters into a building like that. Holes in the floors were loose, structural members, that kind of thing.
So they were getting water onto it any way they can. Hours later, the fire still clings to debris inside the building. Chief Jarrett says no firefighters have been hurt so far.
These folks have done a tremendous job. I'm very proud of the effort that they've put in and the things that they've done today. They've executed very well. Very proud of them.
It's still not known what caused the fire.
It wasn't as bad as what it could have been. But Sapulpa's not taking the right procedures or taking the right precautions or anything. Like, they're not actually caring about our children's safety.
Safety concerns from this anonymous Sapulpa Public Schools family member tied to mixed messages from the district. A decision shared on its Facebook page Tuesday to have class, stating that bus routes had been driven and roads closely monitored. So why did one of its buses with students inside end up sliding off this rural road near Lake Sahoma?
Obviously, they didn't drive that route because that route was horrible.
The district verifying the bus did slide off to News Channel 8, but declining an interview. The family member says students were told by the bus driver to get off the bus and call their parents to come and get them. Some of them allegedly given the okay to walk home.
They don't have it together at all, and they never have. They need to do better.
We asked a spokesperson if it is the district's policy to let kids off of a bus and leave without a parent present. The spokesperson said no, but that the bus driver was likely preoccupied with the incident.
Still to come here, bonus blossoms. Find out how some lucky people are getting free flowers and why the shop's owner is doing the act of kindness. The owner of a flower shop in Rhode Island hoping visitors will stop and smell the roses, literally. Their daily act of kindness brings in customers of all kinds, but as you're going to find out, they all have one thing in common. National Desk Samantha Reed reports from North Kingston.
Right off of busy Tower Hill Road, Flowers by Bert and Peg has called North Kingstown home for the last 45 years.
My mom and her best friend Bertha, who is the Bert of Bert and Peg's, both retired from their first careers, and they decided that it would be fun to open a flower shop.
And once retiring from their second home away from home, Pamela Arnold took it over in 2016.
I absolutely love what I do. I love to teach people about flowers. I love to just arrange flowers. I love to watch the smile on people's faces.
Inside of the shop that smells as beautiful as it looks. There's flowers of all kinds and colors, gifts up for grabs, and just about anything you would need to let someone know you're thinking of them.
We have a little bit of everything.
But every morning, Pamela and her staff are thinking of others too.
We do it every day that we're open.
Because before making beautiful bouquets, her computer also picks something. Every day.
Every day we put our names on a random name generator on a list. The list goes on a wheel, kind of like a roulette wheel, Wheel of Fortune type wheel. We spin the wheel every morning, and then whatever name comes up is the name of the day.
Many months ago, after speaking to other florist friends, Pam had an idea to offer a free flower to those with a specific name daily.
We started it on June 1st.
From there, she went to work, adding names of her friends and customers to the list. But with the help of social media, things started blooming.
Every time someone asks us, we add their name to the list as long as we haven't done it already.
And ever since, every morning, she sets up her sign in front of her flower shop.
Spelling doesn't count. If your name, like today's name is Jacqueline, and if your name's Jacqueline, but it's not spelled the same way as on the sign, and you come in with an ID, you'll get a free flower.
At first, a few were confused.
I watch people come in, they're kind of like looking at me like, is this for real?
But now that many have learned of her efforts over time, she's handed out too many to count.
I think the most popular one we've done to date has been Maria.
Pam says not only has this helped to bring in people who may not have had a reason before, but she knows firsthand how a flower can brighten someone's day.
They're just smiling the whole time.
And fortunately for her, thanks to the ongoing support of her community, she's able to make that arrangement.
It's not much, it's just a simple gesture, but I found that the most simple gestures sometimes are the most impactful.
Well said. And that was Samantha Reed reporting from North Kingstown. Still ahead here on the National Desk, EV problem, the costly push towards green energy in one town and how much it's costing taxpayers. You can watch us live weekdays from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time, and anytime online at thenationaldesk.com. We'll be right back.
The National Desk, America's News, now.
Right now on the National Desk, America's News now. Ghost jobs getting hired can be hard enough of finding out another hurdle job seekers are facing. Plus, American nightmare, the national debt hits a record high. We'll let you know what that means for those clinging to the hopes of owning a home. And funding schools, the Fact Check team breaks down how big a role the federal government plays in financing our nation's schools. From the nation's capital, this is the National Desk, America's News now. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. We're glad you're with us. Many people looking for jobs are falling victim to ghost jobs or jobs that just don't exist. The National Desk, Janae Bowen, shows us the impact on job seekers.
Reggie Thomas spends hours trying to get a job.
It's disheartening.
Some of the hundreds of applications he has put in went nowhere.
The job either wasn't real or the job was already offered to somebody else and I wasn't notified.
Reggie is a victim of ghost jobs, and he's not alone. According to Clarify Capital, 50% of managers keep job postings open because they're, quote, always open to new people.
It was a job. We decided not to fill it, never took it down, or we did fill it, but we never took it down. Or we're gathering potential applicants for future needs.
Julie Balke is an HR professional and founder and chief career strategist with the Balke Group. She says because of the pace of hiring and changes in the job market over the last several years, employers haven't focused on closing the loop with potential employees.
That's damaging to the employer's reputation. It's damaging to the job seekers' mental and emotional wellness and their belief in themselves.
Balke says job seekers must now act like detectives to make sure they aren't wasting their time.
Let's say you see it on Indeed. Go verify it. Look for it other places. Go to the company's website. Is it on there? Go to LinkedIn. Is it on there?
The hardest part is just trying to get the job, where it should be work, doing the work, getting, accustomed to the work. Yes, that should be the job.
According to the latest government data, there are nearly 9 million job openings available here in the U.S. Now, if you're looking for a job, make sure to take a few extra steps to make sure you're applying for a real one, and be sure to use your connections. In Washington, Janae Bowens.
16 Republican governors urging President Biden reverse course on what they say is his ridiculous EV mandate. The proposed mandate would require 2/3 of new auto sales be electric vehicles by 2032. The governors say it's total government overreach that is unrealistic, costly, penalizes retailers, and could further bolster U.S. dependency on China. More than a dozen Democratic-run states are also facing some challenges enforcing similar policies to phase out gas-powered cars. On Wednesday, President Biden vetoed a bipartisan resolution that would remove his waiver of Buy America requirements for taxpayer-funded EV charging stations. Lawmakers voted to rescind the waiver in July, arguing it hurts U.S.-made steel and iron. In North Carolina, city's green energy purchase of 5 electric public buses ended up wasting millions of taxpayer dollars. Asheville city officials spent some $900,000 to lease each bus, which also required special charging stations. In fact, just one bus battery to lease is $118,000, with more than $45,000 for annual electric charges per bus. And only 2 of the 5 buses are actually working. The other 3 have major mechanical and software issues, with specialty parts impossible to find because the manufacturer filed for bankruptcy.
The last couple of years have been particularly difficult. We're going to press pause on investing in any more electric technology for the moment until we can ensure that the products that we're getting are going to be able to work.
Another issue is the distance they can go, which is only 78 miles in the winter before it requires a charge for hours. Morris says the idle buses are now increasing the wear and tear on the rest of the city's operating fleet. The chairman of Toyota now doubling down against Biden's EV push. The former CEO telling Forbes the push should not come from a government mandate, but instead consumer demand. It comes as more automakers are ditching EVs for gas-powered vehicles, citing low demand for EVs and higher repair costs. Tesla shares falling by more than 12% Thursday after the company warned its sales could slow down this year. The electric car maker facing tough competition from Chinese rivals and falling demand despite cutting prices globally. CEO Elon Musk expecting growth to pick back up after production on its next generation vehicle, and that begins next year. Taxpayers could foot the bill for an offshore wind farm project. As part of his green energy agenda, the Biden administration pushed for these projects along the East Coast, but developer Vineyard Wind doesn't want to pay for its eventual removal. The Bureau of Ocean Management waived fees to decommission the project, and a watchdog group warns taxpayers might have to pay to remove the turbines. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell slamming the Biden administration after it pumped the brakes on a massive fossil fuel project. The Energy Department delaying approval for what would be the largest natural gas export terminal in America because the administration ordered the agency to evaluate its, quote, climate impact. The Kentucky lawmaker warning the delay is bad for America and will only send energy costs higher. New Jersey's ban on single-use plastic bags backfiring. A new report found that plastic consumption spiked nearly 3 times since the mandate took effect in 2022. Consumers forced to use alternative bags manufactured with 15 to 20 times the amount of plastic used in single-use bags, which experts say rarely get reused. A prominent Cornell University donor calling on the president to resign while threatening to pull funding if the school, he says, continues to implement toxic DEI initiatives. John Linseth arguing the university is no longer interested in supporting free expression, but rather adhering to DEI groupthink. He is urging Cornell's board to eliminate DEI staff and cancel a proposed Cornell Center for Racial Justice. The World Economic Forum urging folks to cut their coffee intake to save the planet, arguing coffee production contributes to climate change. One banker telling fellow panelists that there is an opportunity to reorganize the coffee industry to make it more eco-friendly. The clip infuriating social media users. Tech journalist Tim Hinchliff writing on X, they're going after coffee farmers when he says production is fragmented. He's saying it is yet to be captured by corporations and centralized. The coffee farmers in the globalist termed Global South are to be stripped of their livelihoods in the name of climate justice. Turning our attention now to the economy, financial experts warning Americans to wake up, sounding the alarm that the growing national debt could kill the American dream. U.S. debt hits another record number, $34 trillion. A Peter G. Peterson poll released just this month found 79% of voters are urging the president and Congress to spend more time addressing the national debt, and 79% say they are more concerned. Economists point to a couple of factors why the national debt is so high. One major one being interest rates, and that is where the American dream comes in, making it harder for many families to buy homes.
Impact on interest rates, it drives them up. It ensures that we're paying higher taxes. And it means middle class, it means lower middle class are paying higher taxes than they should.
The national debt does not appear to be a weight on the U.S. economy. Right now, investors are still lending the federal government money so we can pay our bill. This lending allows the government to keep spending on programs without having to raise taxes. Investors in Japan and China hold significant shares of U.S. public debt. With more on the economy, here is Jan Jeffcoat with former White House economic advisor Steve Moore.
Great article that you posted from the Wall Street Journal that talks about the best way to really avert an economic crisis through growing the economy and not through increasing taxes. So explain what's happened in past administrations when more taxes were raised.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think everybody knows, Gian, that we have a financial crisis in this country with our debt, and it's gone, up $6 trillion just in the last 3 years of the Biden administration. So we have a situation which cannot continue. I mean, Gian, if this continues in the next few years, are you ready for this? We'll be paying $1 trillion in taxes just to pay for the interest payments on the debt. In other words, we won't get any services. We're just going to be paying for our past sins. We got to start paying our bills. But you have to do that, in my opinion, Gian, by cutting spending. And raising taxes will just hurt the economy, hurt American workers and companies. And so if it gets focused on how do we get this spending down, how do we get rid of all the waste in our federal government, we can make major progress in reducing the debt, but no tax increases. And by the way, remember Ronald Reagan tried to get a deal with Congress. He was promised $3 of spending cuts for every dollar of tax increases. He never got those spending cuts. And then, of course, a lot of your viewers may remember that George H.W. Bush lost his presidency because he promised not to raise taxes. Remember, read my lips. Remember that one, Jen?
No new taxes.
He did raise taxes, and that's how he lost his election.
That's right. The economy right now improving, Steve, but the real after-tax take-home pay still underwater. Workers in the bottom half of income still have not caught up to inflation. What do you make of this? What is the future outlook for worker earnings right now? When will wages finally catch up to inflation?
If you look at those red bars at the bottom, those are how much people have lost income. So what that's saying is that for the ordinary American, they're poorer today than when Joe Biden came into office. That's not a very good record to run for re-election on. And those are, those again are the median income families in the middle in the country. And Jan, those are the ones who decide the elections. And it looks like right now, we're headed for a rematch of Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. And it'll really come down to whether people think that Biden's policies have worked better than Trump's. I'm a little biased. I work for Trump. I think his policies work better. But that's really going to be what's on the ballot in November.
You can view the full interview with Steve Moore, plus more top stories online all the time at thenationaldesk.com. America's crime crisis forcing a Bay Area In-N-Out burger location to close up shop for good. The company is saying they can no longer ensure the safety of their customers and associates in Oakland, California. Many report being regularly victimized by car break-ins, property damage, theft, and armed robberies. Police data shows robberies in the area jumped 38% between 2022 and 2023. The nation's crime crisis taking a new toll on another big city. A CVS in Washington, D.C. now closing down. Criminals have hit the store again and again, leaving store shelves empty.
It's bad that it's shutting down, man. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of our medicine that I'm getting for me and my son, that we can't even get out of there.
I go in stores in the district every single day. The police have to be able to do their jobs, and the prosecutors have to do their jobs. We do have to send the message in our city that stealing anything, anywhere, has consequences.
CVS says closing the store was necessary because of mounting safety and security concerns. Macy's rejecting a $5.8 billion offer to take its company private after announcing it will lay off 2,000 employees. Under the unsolicited proposal, two financial firms offered to pay $21 per each outstanding share. Macy's CEO rejecting the offer, saying it failed to provide compelling value for its shareholders. Rite Aid announced they plan to close nearly a dozen more stores after annual earning losses. Since filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy last year, Rite Aid has closed nearly 200 stores nationwide. And more American companies are restructuring and slashing jobs. That includes clothing brand Levi Strauss, which announced this week they will let go of up to 15% of its global workforce. At the same time, Microsoft is laying off nearly 2,000 employees at Activision Blizzard and Xbox this week. That's about 8% of its gaming division. Across the U.S. last week brought power outages, flooding, and school closures, though some, like Chicago Public Schools, stayed open without power, heat, or running water. I'm with Courtney from the Fact Check team. And Courtney, let's talk about funding first. How much money does the U.S. spend on education?
That's a great question, Dee Dee. For fiscal year 2024, the Department of Education received over $81 billion in funding. For context, that's less than 1% of the total federal budget. And that money's broken up into 10 categories. Elementary and secondary education makes up a little over $14 billion of that.
The federal government plays a pretty small role when it comes to funding for public education.
That's exactly right, it does. Education is mainly a state and local responsibility. In fact, typically only around 10% of funding comes from the federal government. A good chunk of it comes from local taxes, but of course the proportions vary by state.
And can you give us a breakdown of teaching versus infrastructure spending?
Sure, so the most recent numbers I found were from the 2020-2021 school year, and 82% of state education funding went towards staff, salaries, and benefits. The national data on infrastructure is extremely limited, but I did find that over half of public school districts report needing to update or replace multiple building systems, which signals a need for more funding.
All right, Courtney, thank you. And for more on this Fact Check Team topic, including links to their sources, scan that QR code on your screen or visit thenationaldesk.com. Still to come, our team of correspondents breaks down this week in Washington, including Donald Trump's victory over Nikki Haley in New Hampshire.
And welcome back. Our Washington Bureau covers the nation's capital every day to report on the important issues facing the country and how they impact you. The Bureau's correspondents are here to share their insights on the stories they've been covering. Another week in the 2024 presidential race and another victory for Donald Trump. He defeated former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley in the New Hampshire primary last week, though it's not stopping her campaign. The calls for her to drop out, however, are growing. National correspondent Audra Elnishar, what's next in the race for the Republican nomination?
Yeah, those calls are certainly growing, Steve. Ronna McDaniel, the chair of the RNC, broke from protocol when she told Fox News after the New Hampshire primary that even she doesn't see a path forward for Nikki Haley, looking at the map. And speaking of map, the Nevada caucus and primaries coming up. That state's got a wonky process this year, but due to GOP party rules, Haley's not even eligible to earn delegates there. So she's looking now at her home state of South Carolina, where former President Trump is way ahead of her in the polls. And it's a winner-take-all state. All 50 delegates will go to the winner. A couple states will vote after, before Super Tuesday, March 5th. More than a dozen states will vote that night. 800, more than almost 900 delegates that night are up for grabs, and a lot of those states are also winner-take-all. So the closer Trump the more Trump is winning states like that, the closer he's getting to the 1,215 needed to secure the GOP nomination. But Haley is insisting that she's the only candidate, the only Republican who can beat President Biden in a general election. But it's very difficult to see where the math exists that would get her that far.
And we've seen this year in and year out. It's all about momentum, and how you get momentum is by winning. If you lose momentum, you lose donors, and next thing you know, the money starts to dry out, and perhaps it will be the end at some point. They'll force her hand. We'll see how long this goes. We'll keep watching. Meanwhile, there's a battle at the U.S.-Mexico border, but this one involves bickering between the federal government and the state of Texas. National correspondent Christine Frizzau, tell us about the tension between President Biden and Texas Governor Greg Abbott.
Yeah, Steve, essentially since President Biden took office, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has been saying, you know, President Biden is not securing the border. But over the last 30 plus months, he sort of has the numbers to give credence to his arguments, with more than 6 million encounters. And a lot of these migrants have been allowed to remain in the country while they await their asylum cases. So that sort of creates an incentive for even more to come. Now, what Governor Greg Abbott has done is called Operation Lone Star. This is really the state taking securing the border back into its own hands. It's been putting up this razor wire. And, you know, the Biden administration has argued this has made it nearly impossible for Border Patrol agents to get to migrants who are crossing the Rio Grande in particular if they need help. They want to cut the wire. And this past week, the Supreme Court said the federal government has the right to, since it's under their jurisdiction, to secure the border. At the heart of this fight, though, you know, Texas says it has a right to do this because the federal government is derelict in its duty. Governor Abbott says he's going to make this argument that the federal government broke the compact with the states as laid out in the Constitution, and he's going to press forward here. This fight is going to continue.
And this is an issue in terms of 2024 that more polls and more voters are saying immigration is at the top or the top issue for them this year. It's something that President Biden is going to have to answer for, considering in these polls it shows that a lot of voters don't approve of how the president's handling the issue at the border. So we'll watch this one as well. Christine, Atra, thank you both for your hard work. Back to you.
Coming up next here on the National Desk, AirTag stalkers, how technology normally used to track valuables are being used to stalk people instead. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. From a plane making an emergency landing on a Virginia highway to a massive fire spreading in a Pennsylvania neighborhood, we're taking the pulse of America. But we start with a Washington State business owner hit by another smash and grab robbery.
Ryan Realbuto spent his days giving back.
This shatters a family. It shatters a community.
He was walking home from a church gathering when D.C. police said he was shot and killed after someone tried to rob him on South Dakota Avenue in Northeast.
That's all I want is just to hug him.
His family in upstate New York speaking out for the first time. They said Ryan was in the district with a volunteer program called CAPCOR, a Franciscan volunteer group where he was assigned to help at-risk youth. Monday, Mayor Muriel Bowser speaking as this marks D.C.'s 5th homicide this year.
Anytime somebody senselessly loses their life in the district, we want immediate accountability for it. And so if anybody has any information, please share it with MPD by calling 911.
We was just on this stream on Twitch, and we was just hearing from the chat, like people we know from school. They was talking about like there's like a shooting up in Cedar and all that, or like somebody had a gun.
Fearing for his friend's safety, Jordan Beard, a sophomore at a dorm nearby, checking on his friends.
I was just hoping that they was okay, making sure they was all inside the dorm safe.
Wright State University police responding to a call that shots were fired in Cedar Hall, one of the dorms. No one was injured, but police taking someone into custody before giving the all clear.
It just worries me a little bit because this could be any one of us, any one of my friends. It could happen at any time. You just never know.
This coming less than 2 months after the Beaver Creek Walmart shooting that happened right by campus, impacting some students.
That was just a messed up scenario. Like my friend, she used to work there.
Apple AirTags are causing major security concerns over reports of stalking.
Every time I hear of, there's a new way of, putting people at risk, like it's something to be aware of.
Renton police say the 2 recent cases involved a domestic violence situation and the other was an employer following a former employee. In each case, an AirTag was placed in their car to follow their movements. Police are sharing what to look out for.
If you are traveling with them and the owner isn't there, you're going to get an alert on your phone, and it's going to say that an AirTag or somebody is moving with you.
People say it's concerning that something designed to help people track their valuables is being used for something malicious.
I'm driving my kid around a lot of the time, and I didn't even think about that being a possibility. But hearing that, you just kind of think about it. Anytime I park my car and leave it, someone could just come up and do that.
Coming up next here on the National Desk, a tumbler theft. A woman in California was arrested accused of stealing so many of the popular Stanley Cups it filled her car. We'll let you know how many authorities say she tried to get away with. A California woman arrested for grand theft after police say she stole $2,500 worth of Stanley cups. Workers reported seeing the 23-year-old leave the store with a shopping cart full of the water bottles. Police later pulled her over and recovered the 65 Stanley cups. That's going to do it for us on the weekend edition of the National Desk. Don't forget, catch us live from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Check your local listings. Watch us online and catch up with the latest headlines on thenationaldesk.com. Thanks for watching the weekend edition of the National Desk. I'm Dee Dee Gatton, and from all of us here, have a great week.